Welcome to Dialogue, and thank you for joining us. I'm Trevor Brown. I'm Dean of Ohio State's John Glenn College of Public Affairs, and I'll be moderating our conversation today. Before we get started, I want to run through a few quick Zoom housekeeping notes. First, all attendees are in listen and view only mode, which means you can see and hear us, but we can't see or hear you. Second, closed captions are available for this webinar. You can click the closed caption button at the bottom of your Zoom webinar screen to turn captions on or off. Third, please note that we are recording this program. We're going to take questions throughout our conversation, and we very much want you to be a part of that conversation. So please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions during the program. If someone posts a question that you like, you can upvote it by clicking the thumbs up icon beneath the question. Diana Bergman, producer and editor for WOSU Public Media, is kindly here in the studio with me, and she will monitor the Q&A and read your questions to our panelists during the program. Now a little bit about the series and what to expect today. Dialogue is a collaboration between WOSU Public Media and the John Glenn College of Public Affairs that's developed into a robust speaker series featuring top names in media, politics, and current affairs, discussing the issues affecting our community and our nation. Our topic today is post-pandemic arts and culture. Joining me for our discussion is Joanna Burton, Executive Director for the Wexner Center for the Arts, Janet Chen, CEO of the ProMusica Chamber Orchestra, and Javon Collins, the Performing Arts Director of the Martin Luther King Jr. Performing and Cultural Arts Complex. Welcome, and thank you all for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you.
So we misnamed this program. We were envisioning this series some many months ago and hoping for a world that we could title Post-Pandemic. But we are still very much in the pandemic. And so one of the things we want to talk about is sort of lessons learned. And to set that table, I want you to just share with me a little bit about last year. So COVID-19 social distancing requirements prohibited a lot of in-person activity during your performance seasons last year. What was the biggest challenge each of your organizations faced last year? And Javon, let's start with you in the King Arts Complex.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you all for participating. But I would say the biggest thing was mitigating multiple pandemics. Along with COVID-19, we had to deal with a lot of social unrest and dealing with the racial situations that happened in 2020 that's been happening for far too long. So with that, getting with our board and our staff to really connect and really help the community heal. And that was the real challenge. And also just keeping our staff together. I mean, we're in the arts, so it's all about engagement, being in the building. So working at home is a lot different for arts administrator, but we were able to do what we needed to do. And of course, connecting with our partners with CCLC and staying and communicating with them was our best thing to have in that connection with all the arts organizations.
Thanks, Javon, and we'll definitely get to the racial justice and social equity issues here in a little bit. Janet, what about you in the ProMusica world?
Sure, yes. Also glad to be here, and I just wanted to echo everything that Javon said. ProMusica Chamber Orchestra is a performing arts organization, and our craft and our jobs rely on being close to each other. You know, we are an orchestra in which when we're on stage, we're sitting as close to one another as possible. And we do everything we can with our audiences in terms of the connection and feeling like they are part of a shared experience. So, you know, when COVID hit, the only way I can kind of describe it now upon reflection 18 months later is we were really kind of in this triage mode where we all within the arts and ProMusica also were just trying to figure out the path forward. And that not only included just what does this mean for the next X amount of months, but it really meant how do we continue to serve the community through the power of arts, which is a universal language when it comes to healing, which was so needed and has been so needed during this time. So But to kind of get to your question, the challenges in social distancing, I mean, to be honest, it was a nightmare. We had to very quickly engage with, for example, a mathematician at Ohio State to help us develop a floor plan that would make sense for us to perform safely, but distance all of our musicians, which is completely incongruent to what we've been trained to do. We've had to deal with not only playing 6 feet apart, but different layouts, and how do we deal with the condensation of wind and brass instruments? There aerosols coming out, and how do we keep everyone safe? So those have all been learning experiences, but I will say that now, a year plus later, we've done a lot and we've learned a lot. So we're gonna take what we have experienced, and as we continue to manage this time, I think we'll be able to apply all that we learned if this continues.
So we'll get to those lessons learned here in a minute, but Johanna, I'd love to hear how you managed this last year in the Wexner Center for the Arts.
Sure. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, so I hope everyone won't mind the raspy voice. First of all, thank you so much for having me and such great company and these colleagues. It's a great conversation to have. Echoing a lot of what Giovanna and Janet have already said, I think what has kept me going and what has kept the Wexner Center going, which, as most of you know, is a multidisciplinary art center. So in addition to putting on exhibitions of fine art, we're also hosting performing artists and filmmakers and community artists and educators as well. So there's 4 sort of mini institutions at the heart of the WEX in many ways. But what has kept most of us going is that we believe deeply in the role that artists play in social change. And at moments like this one, being able to, behind the scenes in various kind of altered ways, whether it's online or through distanced performances and modes of engagement, being able to continue with the support that we give. So the WEX was able, I'm very proud to say, to continue supporting artists in their projects and in their making, even when our doors were physically closed. And that took a lot of different forms. In some cases, it meant simply providing the frameworks and the resources for artists to continue to make. And I think this is a really crucial part of thinking today about the role that the arts can play, not only in conversations that are public facing, but in terms of their livelihood and in terms of their importance. To Jamon's point about the second pandemic, which I know we'll get to later, artists at moments like this actually are some of our most vital commentators, and they also felt extremely isolated and cut off. And so playing that role, even in a small way, felt really, really important. As Janet said, this has just been a horrible couple of years. And in fact, I think some of the challenges that we'll get to later in the conversation have to do with keeping just morale up, making sure that people feel that they're part of a community when they're cut off. But I think very vitally centering the importance of art and not being apologetic about the fact that while it doesn't fall into the category of basic need, in many ways, I would argue that it is an extension of the kind of basic needs of just being a human being in a community that is trying to heal in different ways. I know we'll get to the bigger challenges. I certainly can talk more specifically about the financial hit, for instance, that we took and the way that we tried to stay as closely knit together as possible. But I would just, again, underscore the importance of supporting artists, both as cultural laborers at this time, but also as the beacons of hope that allow us actually to think about new ways forward. So yeah, I'll end there, I think, for now.
Thanks, Johanna. In a minute, I'm going to ask you about what virtual programming you initiated during the pandemic. But before we get to that, I just love, you're already all starting to wrestle with this in your responses, just teleporting yourself back that 18 months ago when we were just starting to learn about the virus and its implications. Could you talk a little bit about how you were thinking about balancing that tension between creating an artistic experience for patrons while also keeping your quote unquote workforce safe, however you envision that? And Janet, let's start with you at ProMusica.
Yeah, that was a very, very tough time. And I think at ProMusica, our basic philosophy when the virus hit was, we aren't going to give up to try and play. To sort of echo everything Johanna said, art heals, and it serves the community in so many ways at a time when really art and music was silenced, and it's really kind of never happened before. On the flip side, it was incredibly important to us that we kept our musicians either employed or creating. I often use this analogy, but if you're a sports team and you stop practicing together for a long period of time, when you come back together, you have that much more ground to make up to get back to either the level of which you were performing at prior to. And that's very much synergistic to anyone who's in the performing arts. We practice together, we feed off of each other, we read each other's emotions, and so it was really important that we continue to do that. But obviously we had to do it in the safest way. The one thing that I would say is that it would have been easier to just shut down and wait than to try and reopen and try, for sure. But we came up with incredible creative ways to do that, knowing that we had certain limitations like capacity. Our home is the Southern Theater. We knew we could not perform in that space during this, the heavy part of COVID. So we looked for non-traditional venues. We ended up moving up our season to the Fives, which is a brand new event space over by the White Castle campus. And this was a space that maximized floor space. We could distance the audience. We could distance the musicians. They had an incredible HVAC, UVC PHI technology system that, increased safe airflow. So, we felt that no matter what, we were however the vehicle was, we were gonna make sure that we delivered music and art, both for audiences and the community's sake, and also just because our musicians also needed to perform. They just, musicians are trained to practice in isolation, but really the culmination of all of that is coming together to create something magical and beautiful. And we knew that we were going to lose musicians, possibly if we did not continue to try and keep this together for everyone.
So Johanna, you began to talk about the resources that the Wexner was providing to artists to be able to create even in the midst of this, but you also started to share that just like Janet was describing, there is this need at the culmination phase, or perhaps throughout, to connect with others. How did you balance in the Wexner the need of artists and others to be connected to other people while also knowing that patrons would be exposed to risk if they were brought into confined spaces?
The good news for us is that our galleries are a space that, for a few months actually had to be closed down, but we were able to open them more safely than other areas, which we continue to have to monitor actually at the Wex. We too worked with a mathematician to think about spacing, and people were so relieved. We opened a show called Climate Changing that had been was supposed to open right before the pandemic, but was put off by nearly 2 years. It's called Climate Changing, but it's a show that addressed really the role of artists and art institutions in culture today, and took up issues including racism, ableism, climate change. And so when we were able to open that show, which was curated by Lucy Zimmerman at the Wex, what was powerful about it was that it had become even more relevant during the year and a half that we had to wait, or year that we had to wait to open the show. And as we welcomed patrons back in a really safe manner, the palpable relief at being able to be in person and looking at art and thinking about art was incredibly moving. Alongside the ability, though, to bring people back in person, and I know we'll get to this a little bit later too, virtual offerings, and really being able to reach out to the community in a variety of ways. Also knowing that there's a whole lot of people who actually don't have access to online offerings. We also went out into communities. Our incredible head of learning and public practice, Deanne Custer Edwards, and her team spent a lot of time in schools, with young people, with teachers. And I actually just want to also mention staff. I know that so far we've underlined the importance of artists, but our staff is also a part of that ecosystem that has felt really kind of thrown off, and public facing staff members having to really kind of navigate a variety of safety issues, but also the kind of ideological and political questions that come up around moments like this. So we really took a lot of care internally. We had some care sessions for staff. We've really doubled down on making sure that we're talking, and we're in all staff, weird Zoom all staff meetings often, but still getting together very often and checking in. And we also recently had the good fortune of hiring a director of art and resilience, who both internally and externally is really kind of thinking about the care aspect of what we do, both in terms of staff and in terms of audience engagement. So all of those things, I still think people feel pretty beat up. I know I do most days. But I also feel that we've learned maybe there's a silver lining in the way in which we are prioritizing and thinking about this aspect of human care, and every element of the arts actually kind of taking a part in that. I would also, though, mention that a lot of the art that we show and that we think about as fundamental to what the WEX does, it's care in a way that's also about revealing truths and having artists actually speak to the problems in society. So not everything that you'll see at the WEX will make you feel good, but it will make you feel aligned and interested with the questions that I think are vital to the day. So I just wanted to point out that discomfort too, that sometimes art allows us to encounter in a safe way, and in a very special way, I think.
So thanks for reminding us all of the multiple participants that go into producing art. Joanna, your call out for staff. Javon, I know that the King Arts Center is involved in lots of community programs and is very much a piece of the community. How did you all manage this tension of wanting to engage and connect during the pandemic, but also wanting to keep people safe?
Yeah, I mean, we saw it just right when it hit. We had an exhibition that we were scheduling with, some great artists that we had to pivot and say, hey, we can't have it. And I remember we partnered with Gramercy Books for a program with the great author James McBride. And I remember speaking to him. I was like, hey, can we shake hands? Can we kind of hug? But, it was just a lot of uncertainty. But with that, in March and April, we were just getting our team strong and just planning for whatever we needed to do to make sure that when we were able to get back into the facility, we were going to be as safe as possible. So we looked at our building, made sure we were social distancing and all of those things before we even got back into the building, in which hasn't been not too long ago. But with that being said, with last spring, we were able to do a virtual gala. And for us in the nonprofit and arts world, the gala is one of the biggest fundraising events of the year. So with that being said, it's like, whoa, we had to pivot and do something virtual. And, you get accustomed to doing certain things, but also answering the questions from the community. Are you guys open? When you will be open? And then dealing with those who don't believe that we're going through a pandemic. So it's been a lot to deal with. And as Joanna said, and even Janet, it's been exhausting. It's crazy to think that it's nearly been 2 years that we've all been going through this. But I think as a community, we've exemplified the Columbus way and worked together very strong to make sure we're all looking out for each other. And I think that's been the silver lining, showing that we've, in a time of such despair, we've been able to come together stronger than we've ever been. So that's just the beauty of it, but also providing the opportunities for the artists and for the artist groups. And that was with our Heart of Protest, in which we'll speak on a little bit later.
So Javon, I want to keep hearing from you. You mentioned you had to take a gala virtual. I just would love to hear about other innovative virtual offerings that you launched as a result of the pandemic.
I have to say,
Yeah.
Oh, are you talking to Javon?
Javon, and then I'll
Javon.
come to you.
Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, it was a challenge, especially for the events that the community looks for each year, like our Heritage Music Festival. But I would say one of the strongest events, we had our MLK Open House, but our Amina Robinson All Arts Day, when we were able to go to her home and show people, where Amina lived and how she created her art, speaking to Brian Christopher Moss And then also here at the King Arts Complex, we have audio of Amina's voice back from the 90s. So we're able to take that audio and put that with her photo, and it was like Amina was there. So just, taking the spirit of those who passed the torch to us to do the arts, or, create and cultivate and curate the arts here in Columbus, just showcasing one of our most famous artists, and kind of having her spirit kind of calm us and keep us wanting to create and come together, I think was the most, I think the virtual program that meant the most to me, although they all meant a lot to me, but that one was one that I was just so happy to participate in.
Johanna, now let's turn to you. I know Wexner created a sort of a new program called Wex at Home. Tell us about that.
It's actually so incredible. The staff really rallied and actually trained in real time around a lot of production. And we did nearly continuous programming. Our film department brought things online so people could watch films both during this really difficult time to escape it, but also to be really kind of thinking about it. Also, really interestingly, I think for many of us at the center, and this wouldn't be evident as public facing, we were able to support, we have an incredible film video studio that it does a lot of post-production with incredible artists who continued, as I mentioned before, to make during this time. Our two amazing film editors actually took their workstations home so that they could work virtually with filmmakers, and a number of incredible films were produced during this time. Our education department, which we call Learning and Public Practice, did amazing dialogues with artists, with thinkers, many of which were addressing the pandemic, but also the racial reckoning that was happening. And we continue to do those programs. They are both, I think, very much in line with the artistic work that we show, but also with the dialogues that the artists themselves are pursuing. So Wex at Home became this extension of a space that is both still very local, but took on a kind of global audience. We were really heartened to see that, for instance, Ohio Shorts, which is an annual really terrific film festival by local filmmakers, we usually get a packed house of about 300 people. Over 3,000 people have seen these films now across the world, and that's actually a really exciting and wonderful thing. I also wanted to just mention that performing artists were also being worked with both online in terms of virtual residencies, but also brought in very small and select ways into into the institution and into the spaces where they were making work, in some cases live, but being watched virtually. So we really, really embraced the opportunity. And I think, as I said before, what's great about that is we sort of trained in real time so that we'll probably never go back exactly to the way that we were. And that is, again, another silver lining, and one that I think probably others have similar experiences with.
As we turn to Janet, I want to remind you as audience members, please send your questions in. We want this to be as engaging a conversation with you as we can, given the virtual format. So send those in and we'll turn our attention to those. But Janet, how did you and ProMusica take your performances virtual?
Yeah, very similarly to, I think, many arts organizations, we had to adapt quickly. And I would probably say that Javon and Johanna maybe feel the same, which is trying to move everything online suddenly was a challenge. Just not only the resources, but the time and the technology. And, for us, we are a union shop. So, also navigating, decisions with our local American Federation of Musicians Union. So, as we think about the number of barriers along the way, definitely learning how to put content online was definitely difficult. But we all, made it work. And at ProMusica, we turned 3 of our concerts that we decided to do solely digitally. We worked with Vital Companies. They're a wonderful film and video production company in town. And we were able to record and broadcast 3 concerts. And what's really special is that those concerts were viewed by audiences, in half a dozen, countries, in about 12 states and over 4 continents. So, that's really kind of the beauty of going virtual, is you can broaden your your brand and share more of what you do to the world. But really kind of the work off the stage was equally important with our education and outreach initiatives. I remember on March, I think it was 12, when everything was announced to shut down, we immediately went to go get and borrow a video camera. And we had planned to do one of our concerts, our family concerts at the downtown Metropolitan Library. We decided at that moment we were going to get our musicians together, we were going to distance them, we were going to record it just to have, because we had no idea what was coming down the pike. Mm-hmm. And that really kind of was just a sort of gut reaction. Okay, we have to capture this to put it online. That led to us moving all of our Storytime programming, which serves kids pre-K, moved all of that online. We have, close to 20 of those now available online, and we even partner with King Arts to bring stories and music together into the homes of grandparents who are watching their grandkids and locked down at home. And our other program, which is called Play Us Forward, where we work with 3 charter schools here in Columbus. In a typical year, we are bringing violins and instruments and music instruction into their daily lives. And with, our education system having had to deal with some of the challenges that we've experienced, we moved all of that online. We loaned out instruments to the students and just continued to bring as much opportunity as we could. These students even got to partner with a like-minded program in Philadelphia, and they could meet, other great kids and great students who are just, trying to find their voice through music and art in a different state. So those were all really incredible opportunities for us to expand our thinking, expand our reach, know that there's no right answer. But as long as we were trying and continuing to serve our constituents in this way meant more than not trying at all.
We all have demonstrated remarkable resiliency in the face of a global health pandemic, but many of you, all 3 of you, have mentioned the other pandemic that occurred last year, and that was the national conversation and awakening around race and social justice, primarily in the wake of George Floyd's murder, but plenty of other sad events that occurred. I'd love to hear how each of your organizations responded to that second pandemic, and I'll turn to you, Javon. Again, you had mentioned this in your initial remarks. Tell us about Heart of the Protest and some of the other programming that you embarked on at the King Arts Center.
Well, thank you. And Heart of Protest was just something we felt we had to do, and that goes from our CEO, Demetrius Nilly, and our board. A way to get everyone together to speak to what's been going on and plaguing our country and world for far too long. And the situations with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery were just too much when we were trying to, deal with this pandemic. I mean, we were all stressed, and then you see these senseless acts of violence happening to, African American men and women when we're trying to, get the world together. It was heartbreaking. And for me, as a Black man, and I was born on the same day as Emmett Till, and to find that out, I mean, that's heartbreaking. And just getting up every day, just being able to put a smile on your face can be very difficult, based on the fact that I can go in a certain neighborhood, they don't know I'm Javon Collins, and I could be another situation on the news. So that's the tough time that we're dealing with in the African American community. And we had to get all of our partners together. And as I mentioned, our CCLC, that group is, we're just so glad to be a part of it, because everyone were able to share their thoughts and feelings, and we have each other's back. And that's the thing that, you don't see all the time. We want everyone to win that's a part of this organization. But Heart of Protest was, with George Floyd making 46 years of age when he was murdered, we wanted to do 46 days of arts programming, intentionally speaking to the social injustice going on. And thanks to our partners, both here, ProMusica and Wexford Center for the Arts, for your participation. But we're able to, galvanize virtually all the arts organizations here locally. And we were able to do that last summer. We also created a Heart of Protest mural with 3 mural artists here at the King Arts Complex that'll live forever. But we wanted to do things that were intentional and kept the conversation going, because we didn't want it just to be a 2020 issue. this is an issue we're going to have to deal with in the future until we come to some equity and some reality on, our past. And if we don't know our past presently, how are we going to get to our future? And to what Joanna was saying, it's uncomfortable, but you have to be uncomfortable to grow. We got to have these tough conversations because, we're blessed to be here. And it's just about what are we leaving for the future? What are we leaving behind as our legacy? And we have an opportunity now. And that's why we did Heart of Protest, and we're continuing that on. And again, thanks to Demetrius Nilly, our board, for believing in us, and all of our partners for participating, because it was needed, and we'll continue this on for many years to come.
Johanna, you were saying at the WEX this, and we just heard it from Javon as well, in terms of the partnerships and collaborations, but this was something you featured throughout the year. And you also were saying earlier that one of the roles of art is to make people uncomfortable and get them to think about things deeply. Talk a little bit about how you at the Wexner approached events of last year, and how it changed or influenced your interactions with your core audiences and new audiences that you wanted to reach.
Sure. I want to just acknowledge Giovanna and Demetrius's leadership in Heart of Protest, which was really a moment where we did all come together as a community. And at the WEX, for instance, we had two things intersect with Heart of Protest. One was we had worked with the incredible composer and musician Mark Lomax, who is local here in Columbus, who has done an epic work called 400, which was addressing the history of slavery. This was a project that was done through a residency at the WEX prior to even my arrival. And we featured Mark in terms of that project, but also ongoing relationship with Mark as an interlocutor and supporter of the WEX. And then we had an amazing painting show up by the artist Tamashi Jackson, which also intersected with Heart of Protest in this very meaningful way, where the artist came in and really thought about the history of redlining around and gerrymandering around elections and how that affected and continues to affect Black citizens. And so there was this wonderful way in which the programming we were already doing could be amplified and speak through this lens of the Heart of Protest. What I will say about the way that the WEX has always, and I am very proud to be part of this legacy, has always followed artists' voices, is that oftentimes, if you look at our programming, the artists are anticipating and kind of thinking again about these questions and ideas even before an eruption like the one that was brought on so strongly by George Floyd's murder. So both of these projects that I'm talking about happened because, of course, racism didn't just start occurring, and has been actually an ongoing pandemic for at least 400 years. And so these artists were pointing this out well before the events that I think brought a lot of people to consciousness. So I'm very proud of the fact that the WEX has always has never shied away from these topics. What I will say, however, is that the speed at which we were doing a kind of self-reflexive look at our constitution, the staff, the board, the way in which infrastructurally we work was moved along. So there's, of course, many sides to an institution. There's what we, the public-facing programs and what we show, and then there's also the mechanisms that make the place run. And so I think what got sort of moved along, Trevor, to your question, was more of a self-evaluation and a desire, I think, internally to center that work at every level, so that what we are providing externally is also matched internally. And again, I want to really thank the staff for embracing this. We're doing a lot of thinking and talking and learning around what it looks like to be an anti-racist institution, and there's a lot of work to do at every level, and I think within the community as well. So I guess I would point to that kind of work, which also I'm doing with my colleagues. Actually, Javon and Janet within CCLC, we're centering this work and really thinking about how to make our community strong, and also, to be honest with ourselves about the work that we need to do, of which there is a lot.
Janet, how did ProMusica approach this? And again, trying to think about ways to engage your audience. Was this an opportunity to have a deeper conversation, in a sense, with your community while also expanding to new audiences?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I resonate with everything that Javon and Johanna said in terms of, these moments serving as really incredible points for conversation and collaboration. what we do every day is to create meaningful change, no matter what the lens is. And we each have powerful tools of art to do that, and our voices to do that. And at ProMusica, I think, we, for our 40 plus year history, we have been incredibly committed, and it is part of our mission to elevate artists of today, and particularly diverse artists and composers of today. We have commissioned now at this point 69 new works. And as we look forward in our planning and our imagining, really kind of taking a harder look at, okay, we are the vehicle to give the platform for art to happen, to be created through music and through score. So we've been much more, I would say, intentional about bringing that story to the forefront. Just a very quick example, we open our season in about a month, and we have an incredible double bass young player, Xavier Foley. He is an African-American 20-some bassist. He is also a composer, and he wrote a piece a number of years ago called For Justice and Peace. And this work highlights and promotes social justice in the hope for a better future. And while the piece was composed a number of years ago, how amazing that, that, to Johanna's point, like, now's the time even more to lift that. And so we're bringing him in to not only perform, but again, to collaborate with him. And there are other examples of this for us as we continue our planning. But, I think for orchestras, it is definitely challenging. It is no secret that all the orchestras across the country are grappling with how do we, create a deeper pipeline for especially young musicians from diverse backgrounds getting opportunities to perform. And we've been a longtime partner of the Sphinx organization. They're based in Detroit, and for their mission is to, promote talented young artists and musicians of today to develop their careers. And we're very committed to that. So I think this is a long game. This work never ends. And in some ways, that's the beauty of it is, we all have a responsibility at this point in time to be part of this time and part of this movement. So I just kind of also want to commend Jovan and Demetrius for their incredible work and leadership, and just know that the arts community is very supportive of their work and our collective work, because it is part of our future.
Just a reminder to the audience that you can submit questions through the Q&A feature on Zoom, and we would love to hear from you. Janet, you just mentioned the new season. So let's turn our attention to the present. You all have, again, demonstrated just a remarkable degree of innovation and resiliency over the last 18 months in the face of these twin pandemics. What are some innovative practices and new initiatives that you're thinking about launching for this coming year, or different ways you might be approaching this season, knowing that we're not out of the pandemic, not quite still in the height of it in the way that we were 12 months ago, but still very much dealing with both sets of challenges. So Janet, how are you approaching the month that awaits all of us as you launch the new season at ProMusica?
How are we approaching it? Cautiously optimistic. It's funny because in June, which was the last time that our orchestra was together performing indoors, I said to our musicians, "This is the last time you need to wear masks, I promise." And probably not the case at this point in time. So we're just rolling with it in many ways. Safety obviously is number one, but we have planned a full season. Like I said, last year we moved to the fives. Our capacity for each event was 100. We plan at this point to be back in the Southern Theater, where we've implemented, procedures in place, including providing a social distance section for patrons to sit in the theater. I think collectively we are working towards what does it look like to require proof of vaccination from our audiences. All of this surfaces so quickly, right? As things change, we've all had to kind of come to grips with where we are and make decisions. to the best of our knowledge. But we are planning a full season. We are really honestly taking it quarter by quarter. We have the programs and plans in place, but knowing that flexibility is key, not only for ourselves, but for audiences. We want to ensure everybody feels safe when they return to the theater. But to your point, what are the things that we've learned from last year that we're going to continue? Well, first of all, I've mentioned the Fives a couple of times. We've decided to create a new series in that space that will sort of serve as our second home for the year. We want to use the space for innovative programming where, audiences can sit in a different configuration. It's not the same feel as a theater. And so how do we engage new audiences in that capacity? The digital realm and virtual realm is still very much in play, seeing how far it reached in terms of audiences. So, I guess I'll just say that, we've weathered the 18 months and ProMusica has done a lot. We actually did more programs during the COVID year than we would in a normal year. And so we're just going to take that energy and all that we've learned and just hope that this year is going to be better than the last. So, but we'll adapt as we need to, as I'm sure Javon and Johanna are feeling similarly. If not, let me know what you're doing. So
Janet, we've got a follow-up question from our audience. I'm going to turn it over to Diana for a moment.
It's a real quick question. Someone asked, will you have Worthington concerts again?
We are not doing Worthington concerts at this point in time. And one of the reasons is we felt we needed a little bit control of the venues in case something did happen. So it would be very difficult to cancel a concert on a Saturday at the Southern and then a Sunday at in Worthington. So this is at the moment a temporary pause, but we're going to try and continue to stay in that geographic area in the future.
Johanna, let's turn to you in the Wexner Center. How are you all approaching this current season as the fall opens up?
I think we are, like Janet, we programmed many more programs actually during COVID than we did even before, and we program a lot, as many of you know. So I think we're taking that pace down a little bit and trying to be really intentional and thinking again about how seasons and audiences can really connect over time through the different programs that we do. I'm delighted to say that on Friday we are opening a major exhibition by the painter Jacqueline Humphreys. She's an abstract painter who for years and years has thought about the way that that painting and abstract painting in particular is thought about as very sort of far from the world of the everyday. She's done away with that by thinking about actually how abstraction is part of all of our thinking and all of our conversations through screens, through actually thinking about protests, through thinking about the history of representation and its ostensible opposite. So we will be welcoming people back into the space on Friday. But we're also very gingerly, but with great excitement, bringing people back for film screenings. We are also bringing live performance back, and I'm really excited about that aspect of our programming, which is we're lucky to be able to use Mershon, which is a very large space. So even if you're coming for a performance where maybe there will be 200 people, you can spread out and actually think about that as part of the experience rather than it being a deficit. It is where we are, which means if you want to be seeing live art right now, coming in and actually having a whole row to yourself is part of the way that the performing arts team has really kind of worked with artists. I also just want to acknowledge that I personally, we're under OSU's umbrella, and I'm delighted that President Christina Johnson has put into place required vaccinations for students, staff, and faculty. And we are also really listening to artists for whom that is a requirement for audiences. So we're kind of figuring that out in real time. What I would say my greatest excitement about, though, is we've always been collaborators, but we're really thinking about collaboration as the way I think forward always. So talking with different folks, including Javon and Janet, about ways that we continue to sort of hold hands in the arts. So in October, for instance, there's a citywide project with Will Haygood that we're a part of, having Michael Schultz, the filmmaker, come and speak with Will around colorization, Will's new book. And I know many other folks in the community are coming around conversations like that one. So I can talk more about specific upcoming programming when we get there, but I would just say bringing people back, allowing for different modes of engagement, really thinking collectively with our communities and each other, and hearing from our audiences. We're really asking people what they're comfortable with and how they want to engage. And I don't think that's ever going to change. When people say, aren't you excited to get back to normal? I say, no, normal wasn't so great to begin with, actually. I think, pandemic aside, we should be thinking and asking different questions and engaging with our audiences in a really intentional way. So I'm ready for the masks to be gone, but the rest of it, I think, is movement forward.
Great. Thank you. And Javon, what about at the King Arts Complex? How are you approaching this coming fall? What innovations, what exciting new programming will you be launching?
Yeah, we're looking at exhausting all options, as my colleagues are, just looking at what ways we can engage our audience and engage the community. But with everything, we are cautiously optimistic. We're just as a programmer and being in the arts, this is a very tough time, because you really want to, support the artists, support the organization, and then you find yourself with limited options to really do what you need to do to support both. Because it's really tough to schedule something and then boom, there's a new mandate, there's new this, there's new that. But the bottom line has just been the ability to pivot and getting as much information as possible so we can make those informed decisions. So our entire, executive team is, constantly looking for, what's going on, what's the governor talking about, what's the president. We have to stay informed so that we can share that with our artists and with, our subscribers and everyone who supports the King Arts Complex. But as far as this upcoming year, it's just, we're happy to honor Ann and Ron Pizzuti, and that'll take place on October 7th. They're amazing people. I was just so delighted to meet them in person, just based on all they've done and just the fact that they're one of the nation's foremost, really the world's foremost collectors in African art. So that's what we want to, exemplify with presenting them on October 7th. And then with the Will Haygood event, we're partnering with the Columbus Metropolitan Library. Sorry, too many arts organizations. And we're just happy about that, as his book Colorization will have a musician from the original Curtis Mayfly Superfly soundtrack who will be playing music that Will wrote about and in which he'll discuss during the event on October 24th. But, it's just being ready to pivot and just thinking of new ways to engage. We've done podcasts. We've really done a lot that we haven't done in the past out of necessity. And I think, as we continue to grow, and we have a small bandwidth, so it's a little bit different for our organization, but we were able to do a lot with Heart of Protest and everything we've been able to do. But we're also undergoing a renovation. So when people are able to come back, they'll see a new auditorium and a new lobby. So we're excited about a new King Arts Complex. And to Joanna and even Janet's point, I mean, there's no normal. We just, we're not getting back to normal. We're treading a new pathway for a better future, a better tomorrow for us all.
So we have another question from the audience that I want to turn to. So Diana?
Yeah, really quickly, only have about 10 minutes, but I wanted to pose this to someone or all of you. You've talked a little bit about how your organizations have dealt with these pandemics. Have you seen any other innovative ways that other arts organizations have been able to connect artists and the public over the past year? Who wants to take it? Joanne?
I'll just say with GCAC, Delivering Black Dreams, their mural project, just really engaging the community, because that's what we plan to do moving forward, just really getting that involvement and engagement, because we're presenting to the community. But if we truly don't know what they are looking for, especially in this ever-changing world, we're behind already. So just trying to get ahead of it and being intentional moving forward.
Janet or Johanna, things that you've seen across the industry that gets you excited?
I mean, I think, often sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, am I the only one dealing with this? But we aren't alone. What's wonderful about Columbus is, you know, our group of arts leaders has been meeting every 2 weeks, literally since March of 2020, to grapple with every challenge, every issue. How are we addressing it? What are you doing? You know, how are you spacing? How are you reopening? And so we're not alone. And I would say across the landscape of the country, very similarly, we're all just trying to innovate and remain connected to our audiences. You know, the virtual piece definitely has exploded. And my hope is, you know, to kind of transition a little bit, is that as we come out of this time, communities and audiences and people will know and remember how the arts have continued to be present when we were not able to, you know, do what we do in sort of a quote unquote normal time. You imagine when everything shut down, the number of artists and musicians that put content online at no cost, free of charge. And, you know, really had to keep everyone's spirits lifted. And as we come out of this, I just hope that the greater audience will recognize how arts have been on the front line of this entire pandemic, both from the COVID and also from all the other social and racial issues that we've talked about. You know, we have been able to use our voice to address these challenges and to stay relevant. So, you know, whatever the platform or the medium has been for other arts organizations to maintain connected to audiences and the world around us, I hope that as we emerge out of this, the arts will be recognized as really an essential part of the fabric of our lives and of our community. That's my hope.
Well, you've done a great job pivoting us towards the future, and as we come to a close in this conversation, Johann, I'll turn to you, and as you reflect on what's been going on, you were describing how there was some excitement in your thinking about what comes next, and just love to hear you reflect a little bit on what you see as the future of the arts broadly, and whether this is an inflection point and we're making a change, or we're accelerating certain kinds of things that have been going on, and now are just picking up speed because of the events that have occurred in the world. What's your thinking about the future of the arts?
Well, in a way to answer both the previous question and this one together, I have been really, I'm somebody who loves watching people model in institutions, and there have been museum colleagues all over the world, but in the country in particular, who have done amazing responsive work. For instance, the Queens Museum in New York pivoted and is doing programming called the Year of Uncertainty. So actually not opening its doors to anything final, but actually allowing there to be this kind of you know, honesty about what it means to be in a space of uncertainty. And that has really also provided a way for them to respond to their community. I think for the first several months of the pandemic, they became a food kitchen, and actually people could come and be fed. We did a project actually with Cameron Granger at the Wexner that also included really kind of facilitating this kind of community care. I also feel that you know, during the time when the protests were really at their height, a number of institutions across the nation really just became places where people could come and gather and talk and think. And the idea that art needn't just hang on the walls, but actually be a space where people co-produce and think together feels like a very vital and already, I think, present way of thinking about art spaces and institutions. But it's one that I think is propelling us forward more quickly. And Johann, I know that you and Dimitris, you know, do a lot of this work too, where, you know, people want to come together and think about culture and art, but they want to also find spaces that resonate and they identify and help to produce. So I think a lot of that work, which again isn't new, but maybe wasn't as recognized as vital, is what I'm excited to see happen. And again, there are colleagues, I think, all over the country doing that work. We sit on a campus, and so I feel very excited about what it means. Actually, in fact, you talked about the GCAC murals, Johann. We brought a number of those to campus. those are not only being kind of thought about as objects that sit on the plaza, but also as a space for classes to organize, to have curricula, organized around it. And so I think for me, that's what's exciting, is really kind of thinking about how institutions exceed their footprints and even their geography. And the way to do that is, again, by having these shared discussions. So I'm excited about that. I also think, and the last thing I'll say is it's our library system that I think has done this the most effectively, maybe over the last year. So a shout out to other institutions that aren't even necessarily museums who are doing this work, or performing arts, or other art institutions. I'm hopeful that people will recognize, as Janet says, the importance of this work and how it is, again, not something that's just supplementary, but really is vital to who we are as human beings. So I'm excited about that turn.
So we are, with about 2 minutes left, I want to throw a question to Javon and then one to Janet, just to bring us home. So Javon, just carrying on what Johanna was just saying, at the very beginning of this conversation, she talked about the essential nature of the arts. I think a lot of people are reflecting on the work that they do and whether it is essential or not. What's your perspective on the work at the King Arts Complex and how critical it is for the community as we look forward?
Absolutely essential. The arts saved my life. Without getting emotional, at my time at Ohio State, and I'll do this quick. I worked at the Wexner Center for the Arts, and that led me here. And it's afforded me so many great opportunities. But I feel for the future, it's about planting the seeds. I think about our teen filmmaking class, in which they did a film in which anyone can go to the King Arts YouTube page, Hey, It's Faye, and they're talking about teenagers dealing with the pandemic. We all are dealing with it internally, but we don't know how the children are feeling. We have to provide them outlets to create, to speak, because we're all dealing with this. And this is a time where we have to get through this together.
So last question I want to pitch to Janet. We didn't get a chance to talk about the financial impact of of COVID and other events, but I know it has been a very difficult year and 18 months for all of you on the financial front. And it's been so inspiring to listen to all three of you talk about the innovation and resiliency in your organizations and your communities. Just to give us some inspiration here at the end, Janet, what can we as patrons of the arts do to be supportive in the coming months and years to ensure that this vibrant community continues here in Ohio and more broadly?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, please be present. Artists thrive on communication. They thrive on audiences' reactions. We don't make art just so it's out there. We want a response, whether you love it, or don't. It's okay. It's supposed to evoke emotion. So I would hope that in whatever method that you feel safest to be present, whether it's online, in person, safely, there's financial support, but there's also emotional support, which I think during this time has been even more needed, I think, as artists and staff trying to run organizations during this time. Buy tickets if you can. And if you can't attend, for whatever reason, turn that into a donation. Every little bit counts. But I think the last thing I would say is be patient. All of us are trying to figure this out as we go. All of us in the arts are literally, I think, working nonstop. We have not been able to step off the wheel for even a moment. It's been a lot. But what I know keeps me going is that there are people out there who appreciate and love all that we do. A very quick story.
Actually, I hate to interrupt your story, but we are at time. I am so sorry to interrupt, but I'm so sorry. But I hate cutting you off, but I want to thank you to all of our panelists, Johanna Burton, Janet Chen, Javon Collins. It's been a pleasure to listen to you reflect on the challenges, but also the opportunities that it's created. And I also want to thank Diana Bergman for monitoring our Q&A. And thank you to all of you for joining us virtually and for your questions. As soon as this program ends, a screen will pop up asking you to take a short survey about our dialogue series. Please take a moment to share your feedback and help us improve future events. And we hope you'll join us on Tuesday, October 12th, for our next virtual dialogue program, The Affordability of Living in Columbus. Visit wosu.org/dialogue for program details and registration info to come. Thank you all and have a great afternoon.